the gantries with the signs on it, with the cross or the naught or whatever they put on it. I don't trust them. I don't like them. Nick Freeman joins me now as a lawyer and road safety campaigner. Nick, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining me.
Good afternoon, Patrick.
I just outlined there some of the issues that I personally have. I'm a very confident driver, by the way. I love to drive. I've driven for years, and touch wood, never had an accident. But they do freak me out a bit. How stupid are smart motorways? Do they? Should they work?
You're not alone in being freaked out. I've been a 50,000-mile-a-year man for many, many years, and every time I go on a smart motorway, I think, if I break down, if I have a blowout, if there's an accident, where do you go? Where's a safe refuge? And, you know, if all these motorists think it's not safe, then it isn't safe. It's as simple as that. And it's such a...
I think we've got a little bit of an issue there. We'll try and get Nick back. I mean, Nick, sorry, we lost you there for a moment. I mean, I've just been asking there a few more questions about the validity of this and the idea that how is an RAC or an AA man woman supposed to feel safe even fixing a car in this situation or towing a car?
No one feels safe. The emergency services struggle to get there. When they arrive, they don't feel safe. And the people who are involved in an accident or a breakdown, they don't feel safe either. And I've never met anybody other than the Home Secretary, the current the Minister of Transport and the Chief Executive of National Highways have both said that they would prefer to break down on a smart motorway than a normal motorway.
How can that be true?
I wrote to both of them. I wrote to the both of them and said I would like to feign a breakdown with both of them and invite them to take part in it. And unsurprisingly, neither have said they were willing to do so. I mean, what a ridiculous idea. And we've had many senior politicians, the current Prime Minister included, who said before he became Prime Minister, they're dangerous, they need to be banned. Grant Shapps has said it, Liz Truss has said it, but many politicians, then what happens is they get into a position of power and they relax that stance and say, well, let's get some research, let's get some data. We don't need to do that, because if all motorists feel it's unsafe, then quite simply, it's unsafe. And so what we need to do is they've said, look, we're not going to proceed until we get more data over, I think, the next 5 years. We know what that's going to show. It's a complete waste of money, because you can't have roads where the public, the motorist, feels unsafe. It's just not satisfactory. And the big quandary is, what do we do with the existing ones? Having spent hundreds of millions of pounds embarking on a fool's exercise. And sadly, what we can do is revert back to the status quo. It's, I think, important to bear in mind that the original idea was to have refuge areas, escape areas, very frequently.
But they're not.
And in fact, what happened was they did it about every mile. And of course, that's just a crazy situation. But even if you have them every kilometre or even less than that, you know, if you break down, you want to get off that motorway immediately. You want to be on the hard shoulder, leave your car there and then move off that area. And at the moment, there isn't the facility. Can you imagine being in the third or fourth lane?
I mean, even the thought of being in the first lane and breaking down and relying on somebody with a CCTV screen seeing me in time and then alerting the motorways and putting the crosses on and then allowing for those people to... I mean, it seems to me to be... It's a no-brainer that it's not as safe.
It is. That's why it's perverse that they call them smart. You know, when the technology actually works, they're supposed to receive the message within about 16 seconds. They've then got to react to it, work out what to do, and you've then got to notify drivers. Well, how long does it take for a driver who receives some information, there's an accident? The information is always horrendous. It's always poor. It's generally inaccurate. But the driver's then got to say, OK, what do I do now? I need to move over. Meanwhile, you've got at least a minute and a half of live time where somebody is stranded on a live lane. I mean, what could be more frightening than that?
And also, so in a minute and a half, Nick, how many cars have zoomed? But in a minute and a half, which is I mean, I know as a broadcaster, it's quite a long time if you're suddenly told you've got to fill it. It's a long time. And how many cars have already gone past you by that time?
You want to get off immediately. There doesn't need to be any time wasted while you're standing there waiting for something to happen. And of course, as you rightly say, you know, they have these crossers, which actually now the cameras can pick up, and they are endorsable. And that was only fairly recent. Prior to that, the offence was, it should have been endorsable, but it never was, and no one was ever prosecuted for it, which is a ridiculous situation. But I think the motorists generally, as you've indicated, just don't trust the information that we receive.
No, because often it's wrong.
It's wrong, it's inaccurate, you know, believed to be a breakdown, believed to be this, believed to be that, and generally there isn't. And then you, as you say, you have a cross across a gantry, and you can go for miles and miles and miles, and there's nothing there. So the whole system is ridiculous. Nothing is perfect. I'm not suggesting that. And of course, people need to be advised. You know, there are fatalities when there is a permanent hard shoulder, but that's because people loiter on the hard shoulder instead of getting out of their vehicle and getting off. And that's what needs to happen. But at the moment, there's just nowhere to go. So the rollout of new smart motorways is going to stop. And I imagine very soon the government are going to say, look, we have made a mistake. We can't really rescue this, so we're going to revert to the status quo.
Maybe we'll have to wait.
The lanes are too narrow, aren't they?
They're too narrow, but they tried to do it on the cheap, and of course it's ended up costing hundreds of millions. Nick, thank you. Great to talk to you. Nick Freeman there, a lawyer and road safety campaigner. I'd love to hear from you.